Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you get through the news you need to know about, we're running through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Some interesting stuff here today. Not obviously nothing too big, but it's weird this time of the year. We always get some weird report. And I think this goes for every franchise of like, oh, this team wanted this guy or that team wanted this guy. Who knows how much of this is true and just to fill time. Who knows? But anyway, this first news story, this is something that we've talked about last week a lot, and I want to spend a second on it. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins inquired on Vikings running back Dalvin Cook. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. Since the last time we did one, there hasn't been any update on that. There have been some rumors that he might just straight out be cut. I don't expect anything like this to happen until after the draft. I don't think any big deal or big trade, for at least for the Dolphins, will happen until after the draft, which I think is the smartest thing to do. I hope nothing happens with Dalvin Cook after the draft because that gives them a chance to use the second round pick. And honestly, it isn't like the earliest pick in the second round, but they could trade up. And the draft is really loaded with quarterbacks. And obviously the depth of the tight end position is really nice. So we could have some kind of trickle-down effect on the tight ends, especially in the second round. So the Dolphins actually have an opportunity to get a really good player. I know a lot of people like the Texas linebacker whose name's escaping me. I love him. I've watched some of him. I know one of the fans asked me about him, but he's really good. So the Dolphins, that second round pick is a little bit more of a premium than it has been in previous seasons because of the way that the draft is kind of looking, how it's going to fall, and the depth at certain positions that the Dolphins actually need. So it's more of a valuable pick than it would have been in other years. Even people like Jahmyr Gibbs, who can be a difference maker, could fall to that pick. So I think it would be smart for the Dolphins to wait, and I think that's probably what they're going to end up doing. But I wouldn't be surprised if they could make a deal like that happen. Excuse me, guys. I'm having a ding attack. Anyway, Dolphins, this next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins extend tight end Durham Smythe. I think, we talked about this last week as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's $5 million guaranteed. The deal's worth up to $7.5 million. It's a 2-year deal. So yeah, there's really nothing else to say about that. They needed to at least bring Durham back. Durham had a nice year last season. He doesn't do anything great. He's a solid tight end 2. He's a really good tight end 2, I would say, but he's not a tight end 1. And like I said, he doesn't do anything great, which is kind of what we need. We need a third consistent guy on the offense. Obviously, Durham isn't the answer there. There's a lot of names in the draft that could potentially become that and really help out the offense, but and even the run game, which I think is something that's for sure going to be improved, obviously with everybody being in the same system for another season, and you add on to the fact that Gesicki is out of the lineup. They're not going to really try to continue to make that work. I think they can find a nice medium into what Mike McDaniel really wants to do. That and combined with the pass game that was so prolific last year, which wasn't really Mike's MO. But obviously it was one of the, if not, it was definitely the best offense this franchise has had in well over a decade. But it would be nice to bring some balance to that offense, and I think that's what Mike definitely wants to do. That's where he comes from. It would help his health out a lot. So I hope, and Barry Jackson just came out of a report. It was on Bleacher Report. Talked about how the Dolphins, and I'll add this onto this. He was talking about how the Dolphins are most likely going to come out of the draft with the tight end. Obviously, that's not huge news, but I really hope they put a little bit of a premium on it. I think there's 3 positions that they could address in the draft: tackle, running back, tight end. You could say middle linebacker, depending on what fan you ask, but I think those three positions are far more important, in my opinion. So I hope that they can get someone who's a little bit more high end at the tight end or running back position to at least help the run game out. And getting someone like a Darnell Washington, who's a prolific run blocker, and there's a few of them in this draft that are actually pretty good two-way tight ends, I think could really help out the offense. So I hope they invest in that position. And again, the thing that's unfortunate is that they don't have a lot. Obviously, they don't have a lot of picks. So the wiggle room is very. I mean, that first round pick really. Imagine if they had that first round pick right now, because I wouldn't even be worried about it. Because I mean, they could address two issues, and obviously they would be luxury picks at that point. Just the whole Brian Flores thing, just it is what it is. But it sucks that they did what they did, handled the way they handled it, and now the Dolphins are out of first round pick. Because that would have been, it would have been very, 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 very important to have in a draft like this, especially. They could have had Jahmyr Gibbs and someone like Darnell Washington if they wanted to. That could have been a possibility, but obviously, or the Texas linebacker who I cannot remember his name right now, but he's a very good player. There's a lot of players that I like in this draft. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Now, here's the thing about this. I love Tyreek Hill. I think he's one of my favorite Dolphins of the last 20 years. Like he's amazing. One of the best seasons a Dolphin has ever had. 17. He should have. Unfortunately, Justin Jefferson, had the year that he had. But Tyreek Hill, I mean, 1,700 yards, just a monster. As much as I love him, he tends to kind of, I don't know. I feel like he messes and says things in the media that, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe everything Tyreek Hill believes that he's saying. I don't believe that he believes in what he's saying, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But this next news story, Tyreek Hill plans to retire after the Dolphins' contract expires. The deal runs through the 2026 season. I hope he retires a Dolphin. I do believe him that, that seems more reasonable if he retired in the 2026 season. One of the, again, like I just said, very, like a transcendent player. If he can bring a championship to Miami, he's obviously in the pantheon of all-time great Dolphins. I hope he can. And the team is definitely trending in that direction. But yeah, just a transcendent player. I just don't know. Tyreek Hill messes around a lot. Let's just, I don't know. I don't know. I hope. One thing that I did take away from that story is, even though it's just so whatever and doesn't really matter, I hope he retires a Dolphin. I think that would be nice. If we could, have Tyreek Hill through that amount of time, that would be nice. I would really appreciate that. Another thing is keeping Waddle and Hill together would be, for a while, it would be amazing. Obviously, Waddle, one of my favorite Dolphins as well. It's just nice to have those players to watch in the uniform. Every time I look at the roster, it's kind of crazy. Even to think Jalen Ramsey's a Dolphin. How well we've drafted in recent years with players like Christian Wilkins, Jalen Phillips, even Robert Hunt, he's not great, but he's not on their level. But I think we have a lot of really good players. Xavier, obviously, Javon. It's just a great roster. Like I said, I hope at the very least Hill can retire a Dolphin. I'm a sentimental person like that, where if you're a great franchise changer, face of a franchise type of player, in my opinion, and it's definitely becoming a dying breed in sports today, I would try to have that player retire with that franchise. I think it does mean something to the fans. And it means something to the team, and that's how you build. Everything that the logo stands for every franchise are the players that came before. Those are the people that build it. So it is important that I think certain players retire with the same team that they were drafted to. So I hope he'll retire as a Dolphin. This next news story is another story that who cares, okay? Dolphins Raiders held Darren Waller trade talks. Drew Rosenhaus, obviously very popular agent and represents a ton of Dolphins. He was also one of the bigger, like, Deshaun Watson's going to Miami people, like, very vocal about that. Obviously, that didn't happen, but he's dealt with the Dolphins a lot over the years. Rosenhaus said that on the Pat McAfee show, Waller was, quote, very nearly dealt by Las Vegas last offseason. The team in which the team started seriously looking into moving on from him. He could have been a Dolphin, he goes on to say. But the team, I guess he was just saying that the Raiders have wanted to move him in the past. One thing that I actually am happy this didn't happen. I think Darren Waller, God bless him. When he was healthy and playing at a high level, obviously he's great. And if we could have gotten prime Darren Waller, I mean, obviously I would have made that trade. But obviously still a very talented player. I just don't see the same player that was going for over 1,000 yards at the tight end position. I don't see it anymore. Maybe he can kind of recapture that with the Giants, but I don't know. He just doesn't look like himself. It's kind of, I know the Giants fans, I don't know if Giants fans are freaking out about that trade. I'm not really sure how Giants fandom feels about that. But I don't know. He just doesn't look like the same player to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. He's also pretty old. I think he's 31, and he's dealt with all those injuries. He's 31 or 30. I don't remember. But yeah. Plus with the tight end, another weird thing to consider. Why would you? And again, nothing's guaranteed, but this draft is loaded with tight ends. I mean, Laporta, Kincaid from Utah. I hope I'm saying his name right. Mike Mayer, Notre Dame. I think I already said Laporta. Who else? Washington. Who's the South Dakota guy? His name's escaping me right now, but he's obviously, and if he didn't get hurt last year, probably would be projected higher. So there's a lot of really good tight ends in this show. I know a lot of Dolphins fans like the South Dakota tight end. I can't remember his name, but he's obviously, I think, from the Combine. I think he said something about Mike McDaniel. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, that's it for the news. Nothing insane. Obviously, the second round pick this year, and I've never, ever been this interested in a Dolphins second round pick as much as, well, maybe that's not true, but because, like I said, because of the trickle down effect from the first round, there could be a lot of really good players in the second round. Plus with the depth at the tight end position, it's just going to be really interesting to see what they do. I swear to God, if they go off the wall and pick a corner or a safety, I'm going to lose my mind. I hope they don't do that. If there's someone like DJ Turner there, then I'm not going to be mad. Like, if it's, even then, I think I would be mad, actually. It obviously depends who falls to the board on the board at the time. Chris Greer has drafted a lot of tight ends throughout his tenure. Maybe this is the time that they get crazy and draft Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, they have some Alabama ties there. I don't know. We'll see what they do. I have no idea what they're going to do. I still haven't gotten into the tackle situation. It doesn't seem that deep from what I've seen so far. Plus, tackles are a premium anyway. I don't see, and even lately, it seems like the great, like, later round tackles, that hasn't really come. I mean, I can't think of one right now that's like a top level guy that isn't a high end pick in recent memory. So that market seems to be dead. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody in there that could fall to that pick. But yeah, it seems to me that like the I would say the the positions that have the most depth that the Dolphins need would be running back and tight end. And when I say running back, I just mean as a playmaking player. If they see someone like, I know the receivers, I know a lot of people aren't talking about them, but I actually do like them. There's some good players on the board. I don't think they would ever do that in a million years, especially after signing Braxton Berrios. But I don't know what they're going to do. So I'm very excited for the second round. But let's move on to the fan Q&A. This first question comes from SM. He says, if we could get Lamar Jackson or Tua, this year's second and next year's first, and second, do we make the trade? If I was on the phone with Baltimore and they were like, we will give you Lamar Jackson for this, okay, for Tua, a second, this year's second, and a first. I will say that, and this is just, and I don't even want to say I've been negative, but obviously the end of the year, we were 8-1. Tua was 8-1 when he was playing, when he was starting. We were on a roll after we beat the Texans. I think we were 8-3, 8-4 at the time. I think we were 8-3. And then the quarterback play just dropped off the face of the earth. Like, it was bad. But going back and looking at the numbers, I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I know I've talked about this a lot, but people who think that he was just throwing screens and they were just, like, after the catch, yes, there were some of those plays, like the Trent Sherfield, Jalen Waddle against the Packers. The Bills one was, he was just wide open on a deep post. That wasn't like an easy throw. It was an easy throw because he was wide open, but in terms of like throwing something short and them gaining a lot, most of the yards coming after the catch, that really didn't happen last year. It really was all big plays for the most part. So it wasn't like Tua was getting carried by a scheme or someone like, Todd Gurley with Jared Goff early on, where he would take a 5-yard screen for 80 yards to the house. That wasn't really happening at all. And Tua's yards per attempt, his quarterback rating, his completion, all of those things were great. So going back and looking at it, I don't know. I do think that the only thing that's weird is the concussions. If I was the GM of the team, I'm going to be honest with you. If I got a phone call about Lamar Jackson, then yeah, I would make that trade for sure. I just would consider the fact that all of the factors that I just said, the quarterback play did fall off at the end of the year. The concussions are an issue with him. If he's healthy, he's great. I honestly, it changed my mind on Tua a lot when I went back and watched some of it. It wasn't as negative as I was with some of the stuff at the end of the year. I still think Tua can be a phenomenal and a great quarterback, better than even I thought he could be. So it would be a tough trade to make. It wouldn't be like something easy. You definitely have to think about it. But you're talking about a former MVP of the league, a player that is very unique, and he's also a great, I don't know why people, you hear morons say, he's not an accurate passer, and they compare him to players like Cam Newton. That's not just racist, in my opinion. I'm not racist, but it's not racist, but it's lazy. Racist is a little bit too strong of a word. It's just late. It's not, Lamar Jackson is not inaccurate. But yeah, I think when you consider all of the things that could happen, even though I really do, I don't know, I do want to see Tua play another year in this offense with everybody, hopefully the team improving, which it has so far, and a better defense. Because, again, we were in a lot of shootouts last year. A lot of shootouts. And we won a lot of them too, but some of them, obviously Buffalo, we didn't. So with a better defense and just a better team, with the offense coming back, I think Tua is definitely going to go to the Pro Bowl. He should have this past season. But I think he's going to have a career year this year. So it's kind of a tough decision, is what I'm saying. It would be a very tough decision, tougher than, I mean, if this was any other year, we're talking about any other Dolphins quarterback, it would be a no-brainer. But definitely would have to pause and think about it for sure. This next question comes from SM again. He says, nobody has mentioned tackle Donovan Smith, who played for Tampa Bay for the past 8 years and barely missed a game, is still out there in free agency. 30 years old with a Super Bowl ring. Thoughts? I didn't even know Donovan Smith was a free agent. That definitely could be an option. I swear, obviously the pass protection last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wasn't actually as bad as you might think, but their run game was terrible. But we're not asking Donovan to, I just want you to protect Tua. Donovan Smith. I did not know you were a free agent, Donovan Smith. He's 29 years old as of today. Maybe he turns 30. Yeah, SM is right. He is a free agent. I did not know that. Yeah, that definitely could be I don't think you're gonna get anything like this happening until after the draft. From most of these, like Marcus Pete, like some of the guys that have been left over in free agency, that's not gonna get resolved until after the draft. I don't think we'll see any of the like Taylor Lewan players like that. I think will be dealt with after the draft. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, "Hey Skaggs, what do the Dolphins need right now to beat the Bengals and Chiefs?" That's a great question. What do they need to beat I think they addressed what they need. They needed a better defense. I think the biggest is we played the Bengals last year. The biggest problem, not including the Teddy Bridgewater factor, which was terrible last year. He threw that game away, and he threw the Vikings game away too. But moving on from that, he threw the Patriots game away. But I think the biggest difference when you go back and look at some of the matchups, even with the Bills, we need to be able to rush for. And this is a huge cliche that I'm about to say, but it's true. If you look at all the defenses and all the big moments in the playoffs, they all are good at one thing. That's rushing 4, rushing 3, being able to get pressure, and confusing those quarterbacks and dropping the rest of those people back in coverage. That is the best defense you can possibly play in the NFL. And that's what wins championships. And I know it's a cliche, but it's true. Being able to get to the quarterback with 4 people is very hard to do. And the top teams that go to the Super Bowl and win in the playoffs and win 13, 14 games a year, that is how you get it done on defense. Look at any historically great defense, maybe besides the 86 Bears, that's what they did. And obviously there were some, not even that. I mean, that's what, Spagnuolo blitzes with the Chiefs sometimes, but it's not on the level of Josh Boyer. But that's what you have to do. And I think that's something the Dolphins didn't have last year because of their scheme and injuries. This year, that's completely changed with Vic Fangio. A lot of the depth with the pass rushers is coming back this year. It's one of the deepest units, if not the deepest, in the National Football League. So they should be able to do that. So I think that's going to be the biggest leap from last year to this year, is the defense is going to be significantly better. Obviously, it was not a very good unit last year. It was pretty bad. A lot of the great players on the team rose above it and made really good plays. But at the end of the day, there's 11 people on the field. And between the injuries and the terrible decision-making and play calling and scheming and just the actual... Listen, Josh did not do a good job last year. I don't even have to get into this. It is what it is. Vic Fangio is a significant, massive upgrade. What was I gonna say? I wish Mike McDaniel would have pulled the plug on Josh Boyer, because he wanted Vic Fangio last year. Obviously, Vic went into retirement or whatever the heck, sabbatical. That's what he called it. So yeah, I think that's what they need to do to beat the Bengals and Chiefs, and to beat the Bills in our division. I think to win the division, that's what they have to do, is to be able to rush 4, and ideally get to the quarterback, and then that's when the Vic Fangio scheme kind of takes off. It doesn't mean you can't blitz. But that's how you win in the playoffs, in big moments especially. So yeah, I think that's what I would say. That and the fact that I think, honest to God, I swear to God, I think going back and watching Tua, I don't know. I don't know what I felt better about it than when it was happening at the time, which is weird. I don't know. It was very strange. It was like, you know what? Like, just watching it, I think he just played too well last year not to give him another shot. And I'm excited to see what he does this year. I really am. Because there's a lot of things that he did last year that I think gets you excited as a Dolphins fan for sure. But anyway, if you want to beat the top teams, that's what you got to do. And that was the biggest reason why we didn't, we lost those 2 games against the Bills, which were very close, and we just couldn't play defense in key moments and gave up too many points in a lot of the games. I mean, we made the Bears look like a competent offense, which was ridiculous. And a lot of that was Justin Fields being amazing, but none of the top defenses, when they played the Bears, looked like that, other than the Cowboys. But they won by like 50 points or whatever. I think it was 40-something to 20. So that should tell you everything you need to know, really. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This team is stacked to the gills, and I'm so excited to watch it. Best Dolphins team in years, not even close, and coaching staff too. Better than the Jimmy Johnson, some of the Jimmy Johnson teams, in my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this season a lot. Yeah. Let me know what you guys would do with that second round pick. Because I have no idea. You could tell me. I don't know what they're actually gonna do with it, but like, there's so many things you could do with that second round pick. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.